I was about to start filming and then my cat started taking a crap. She always knows when to show up, right whenever I'm about to start getting serious. She starts getting serious too. We're gonna give her a minute. Smelly cat, what are they feeding you? Smelly cat, it's not your fault. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel where it is my hope to inspire you to capture the vision of your life. If you are new here, hi, welcome. Please remember to subscribe and to click the gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video every Wednesday and on the weekends on all things ADHD, mental well-being, and personal development. Now, today we're going to be talking about the question at hand. Do you have ADHD? I mean, how would I know? But I'm going to be giving you a long list of things that you might relate to and why you potentially could have it. There is a specific way to get diagnosed and you would definitely have to see a doctor, and I am not a doctor. And according to the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, there is a specific criteria you have to meet, a certain minimum for a certain amount of time. We're not going to talk about that. I'm just going to be talking about the overall laundry list, the litany of symptoms that us ADHDers experience on a consistent basis. Because if you don't know me, again, hello, I have ADHD and I got diagnosed about a year and a half ago. And I was 31 when I got diagnosed, and it was so, what is the word I'm looking for? Validating for everything I'd been experiencing, because I knew I was trying in life and things just were always so challenging and I didn't know why. It's like everything seems so easy to everybody, but for some reason you can't seem to get your act together. Let's jump into it. And if you relate to any of these symptoms that I'm gonna be going through, let me know in the comment section below. You know I love hearing from you. With that out of the way, I want to get right into it with symptom number 1. And with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, it goes without saying that us ADHDers are easily distracted. Attention deficit, yep, we get distracted easily. We catch our, I know for myself, I'm gonna speak for myself here. And a lot of times I find myself being distracted without even realizing that a distraction happened. I will be even giving somebody full on eye contact in the middle of a conversation, and I will just completely lose the train of conversation, train of thought, whatever it is that they're talking about, until reality kind of pulls me back in with a prompt on the other person's part. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'm just like, oh, yeah. And I have no clue what they just got done saying. Or you can find yourself distracted in your daily life. I know I just put a video out this past week. You could check it out in the links right here. I say that because I don't know which side the link is gonna be on. But just what it's like to have ADHD. You find yourself in the middle of something that you don't even know how you got there. It's kind of like when you're driving home and it takes like 20 minutes to get home, and by the time you arrive, you're like, wait a minute, I don't even feel like I remember doing the road trip. Like, did I stop at all the stoplights? Did I make sure I yielded correctly and I used my blinker? Like, I've done that where I've driven home and I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. Just easily distracted. But it's like you go on autopilot. So with that said, our next symptom, we're gonna jump right into it, is hyperfocus. Now, this is very contradictory to the name of ADHD, attention deficit. It's actually that we have a hard time giving our attention to things that are boring to us, because we can definitely zero in on things and just be lost in focus on something to the point where we're not even paying attention to other people. For example, this painting I painted behind me, I totally broke my schedule that I had planned for myself and just zoned out. I got myself on a little jacked up sleep schedule by painting into the early hours of the night, morning, however you want to word it. And it took me a little bit to get back on track because I just so zoned out and hyper focused, if that even makes sense, on painting for 11 hours straight. And it's easy to give your attention to something that's interesting to you if you have ADHD, to zero in on something, play video games for a long amount of time, just zone out on social media, anything like that. It's just something that you might relate to, which leads splendidly into my next symptom, or something you might relate to, is the trouble you might have with managing your time. You find yourself always running late to things. You find yourself overshooting how long the amount of time something's gonna take, or you undershoot it. Like, you think that a project's gonna take 3 hours, but in reality, it's probably gonna take 6 hours because you still have to prep, you still have to work on it, you still have to do the final touches, or again, with time or getting to someplace, you're always running late, you're always the last person there. You assume you have a certain amount of time to get ready, you wake up. Because you have so much time, you go into the kitchen, you brew yourself a pot of coffee, you sit down, you stare out the window, you look at the birds, and you think that that took the span of like 2-3 minutes, but in reality, 13 minutes have passed and you don't even realize it. And then you check the clock and you're, oh my gosh, like I gotta hurry up and get ready. And you start to get ready and you still even compact that amount of time down. Like, well, I have time to grab this real quick and that real fast and this real fast. And then you get in your car and you don't realize how much time it takes to get down to your car, to start your car, to get out of your neighborhood takes you longer. You feel like you live right off the highway, but in reality, you live 15 minutes away from the highway as opposed to 5 minutes that your brain tells you that you think that you live that close to the highway, if you're tracking me here. And then by the time you get on the highway, get to your destination, then you gotta park. Then you gotta walk, you gotta find your destination. Not too long ago, I had to go to a doctor's appointment and I wound up at the wrong location. So I was late. And you're always that person that's late, and it's the most embarrassing feeling. And no matter how many times you're late, this is almost like a little extra symptom, or is that you never learn from your mistakes. You never learn from your mistakes of being consistently late all the time. It takes a while for things to get into your thick head, and I'm talking to myself here. I sometimes struggle with learning lessons in terms of time management and procrastination and just how I function and jumping into things too quickly, but I'm getting ahead of myself, which is something we do. So next symptom is the fact that we are a lot of times disorganized, whether it be in our thoughts or in reality or in our life or in our time management, which I know I just got done talking about, but we are disorganized. We have 60 different calendars to try to get ourselves on track. We have all these different apps that we keep trying to use. Our purse is disorganized, your backpack's disorganized, your car's disorganized, your house is disorganized. Nothing goes where it's supposed to go. You've started 50 supposed to go spots for like your keys or your this, and before you know, it's like you find the things that are supposed to go here over there and you try to get yourself organized and it's impossible. I have such disorganization in my life that to keep it on track, I've realized I need to go as minimalistic as possible, and I have gotten rid of a lot of things in my life that I realize are just unnecessary distractions because I can't keep track of things, and the more things I have, the more things I have to lose, and then that causes me to lose it, aka my mind. So moving on, after that, us ADHDers are often quoted as being the kings or queens of procrastination. And I know that I can vouch for myself there, that I procrastinate so much all the time, still consistently to this day. I try to fight so hard to not procrastinate, but it just wins very often. And I noticed that the best way for me to combat it is to quote Mel Robbins. She's an inspiration of mine. She has ADHD. For those of you that don't know, she's a motivational speaker. And the best way to fight procrastination is to take action. You have to literally do the act of taking action. And before you know it, you start viewing yourself as an action taker instead of just a procrastinator. It's just getting started when you're not quite under the gun. It's just really hard. Like, oh, I have all this time, I can wait. And you put it off to the last possible minute all the time. Procrastination for me is a hard thing to tackle. And I always notice that the best way for me to tackle it is to just get started. Moving on from there, we are often very forgetful. We have a really bad working memory, and I have an odd memory where I remember very specific details from the stupidest things ever, maybe even just dumb songs that I haven't heard in 25 years, but I can't remember where I put my keys to save my life. No joke, in 1 week, at one point in my life, I locked my keys in my car twice and my brother had to bail me out. And the second phone call I made of like, oh my gosh, I did it again, was so just the phone call of shame. All you have to do is laugh at yourself. I try to find the humor in so many things and I just was laughing. I was like, I did it. I locked my keys in my car again. Moving on from there, with ADHD, if you find yourself being very impulsive, then there's a chance that you might have ADHD along with all these other symptoms. But if you have a hard time holding back from blurting things out when you probably should hold back, or jumping into doing something without really thinking of the consequences, or purchasing something that you really don't have the money for, or, telling somebody your thoughts when they really didn't want to hear it, you just, for the most part, have a hard time with impulse control. You just have to do the thing. It just like something takes over you. I feel like it is. And you have to do whatever it is that you think you have to do. And then once you're done, you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then later on, you're like, why did I even do that? I'm so impulsive. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm impulsive. And then the repeat cycle just happens over and over and over and over. Moving on from there, us ADHDers have emotional issues, constantly finding ourselves bored and or looking for excitement. We are either depressed, going through cycles of depression, or we are, hysterically upset or crying. And some people even lash out in anger and frustration and easily just anxious and annoyed, depending on whatever the circumstance is that you're finding yourself in, especially if things are out of your control. For me, the thing that sends me the most over the edge irrationally is my technology. When things don't go my way when it comes to my computer or my phone or the internet speed, and also just the flow of traffic, I find myself getting really full of anger and rage. I don't really lash out at people per se, but you might relate to that you just don't even know what kind of happened, and before you knew it, you lashed out and you weren't even able to hold back because you have zero impulse control and you have a lot of emotional dysregulation. We have a hard time calming ourselves down from whatever tree it is we climbed ourselves up into. Just completely hysterical. That then leads into my next thing that us ADHDers struggle with, which is low self-esteem. And the reason why low self-esteem is triggered and manifests itself into people's lives that have ADHD, whether diagnosed or not, is that we just have a long history of just failed everything. And we may view challenges and difficulties because of our ADHD as a personal failure and a personal reflection of who we are as a person. And we shame ourselves and we basically talk crap to ourselves about how horrible it is of a person we are. Like, why can't you do anything right? Why can't you ever finish something? Why can't you be on time? Why did you say that? Why are you always so freaking lazy? Those are the conversations we have in our minds towards ourselves. And it just constantly is a negative cycle of repeat behavior mixed with a constant cycle of repeat negative self-talk, which just brings our self-esteem so low, and especially so low. Especially if other people affirm our own insecurities to us, and especially if you don't know you have ADHD, it can be so detrimental to your health and mental well-being. Another thing that us ADHDers do is that we have a hard time communicating our thoughts. We have a hard time expressing our thoughts eloquently, concise, to the point. We don't say what we mean. We don't mean what we say, because when it comes from here to out loud, it's never what we think it's gonna be. Like the other day, I was wanting to talk about Greenland, and I accidentally said Greaseland out loud, and I was so embarrassed. And then sometimes I'll be saying something and I'm not putting together my thoughts appropriately into the other person. I'm just like, oh, never mind, I'm not making any sense. And I just kind of wither and die with my own thoughts. I know what I'm trying to say, but it just won't. It's in your head, you have certain things and it just doesn't quite come together whenever you finally put it all in one sentence out loud for the world to hear. So another thing that you might relate to if you have ADHD is lack of motivation, or you might find yourself feeling like you're just always lazy. You don't want to do anything. And it usually starts with, not usually or not always, but a lot of times things start off with an initial excitement, jump in head first all the way. We're doing all the things, all of it right now. And then before you know it, you're like, I don't know what I just signed myself up for, but I 100% don't want to do any of it anymore, period. I want to quit. I don't want to do it anymore. With what I just kind of said about feeling lazy or lack of motivation, we are quitters. You might find yourself feeling like you've quit a lot of things in the past, signed up, really excited, and before you knew it, you're like, what did I even get myself involved in? What is this? Who does this? And you don't even want to do it anymore, and you quit. I know for me, I've quit so many things. I quit volunteering for a cat rescue group. I quit karate as a kid. I quit a lot of art clubs in high school. I quit college multiple times. I quit so many different jobs. I quit so many different friendships and connections and organizations and ideas and groups and memberships and commitments. I just feel like my life especially pre-ADHD diagnosis, was a litany of quits. Now I'm a little more careful with the impulse of just saying yes to everything. I'm not perfect at it though, so I'm working at it each day at a time. I quit a lot of things. It's embarrassing. Moving on from there, another thing with us with ADHD and you might experience is a certain type of restlessness and anxiety. Anxiety with doing anything because of the fear of I won't be able to measure up because I'm forgetful and I'm not really good in the office, or I'm not really good working with people, or I have anxiety with the way I communicate. So we just find ourselves in just various scenarios and situations, just always having a certain level of anxiety because of a cyclical pattern of what ADHD brings to your life, if that makes sense. I've gotten better with my anxiety, especially creating new boundaries, getting my own place, surrounding myself with people that get me and love me and appreciate me and listen to what I have to say and respect the things that I say. And especially again, when it comes to boundaries and my personal feelings and my emotional side, my anxiety is pretty much non-existent. I do still feel rushes of anxiety when certain anxiety-ridden things happen. Like if you've watched my videos, when I found out somebody I knew had diagnosed positive for a certain pandemic virus that has been taking over the world, I had a rush of anxiety in that moment. But do I just always live with crippling anxiety anymore? Definitely not. And it's a nice feeling. So the next one, I've discussed this many times in my videos in the past, but it is one of my biggest embarrassments, shames, just things I wished I didn't have to deal with. And it used to be one of the criteria, but they couldn't measure it, so they got rid of it, is sleep issues and constant fatigue, always feeling tired because of your sleep issues. You struggle to fall asleep. You toss and turn all night depending, and if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're screwed because you're going to be awake the rest of the night. And then when it comes time to finally actually get up for an appointment or someplace to be, you really, really, really struggle to wake up. Moving on from there, this next symptom or issue with having ADHD, or a sign that you potentially might have it, is something that I know I relate to, is substance abuse and or just any sort of abuse of alcohol, drugs, you name it. You just might have problems with substances because you might be depressed, full of anxiety, and just trying to fight that feeling, or you want stimulation and you're constantly bored and you are finding ways to kind of give that dopamine rush to your brain that you are desperately wanting all the time because you don't have it and you want it. So a lot of us ADHDers have issues, and a past issue with substances. I'm guilty of it, like I said. So yeah, definitely no joke there. Obviously, with what I've just been talking about, the next thing that us ADHDers have an issue with, or sometimes challenges with, is relational issues. And we constantly find ourselves just losing friendships, losing relationships, jumping in too soon, interpersonal relational problems because we struggle to communicate or make our loved ones feel like we care or we're listening, or that we're constantly forgetting to do things for people, or we're constantly jumping in too soon and then quitting, and it just causes problems with the relationships. And I know that I myself am guilty of that as well. Which then causes social anxiety, which is never a fun experience because you never know, who you can trust or who's going to accept you for who you are, or the grace that people hopefully give you. You don't always get. Some people aren't patient enough to deal with you. A lot of times just not easy in the relational aspect of life with ADHD. So if you find yourself having trouble making friends or finding, someone to date, you could potentially have ADHD, you never know. Or it could be something completely different. I'm not a doctor, like I said. I know for me, looking back in my life, this is other little symptoms, but for me, I have a litany. We are talking about over 30 jobs in my past. I've also moved over 30 times. I know. Often changing careers, or in college or high school, you're struggling to kind of find your path or what you want to be when you grow up because you just don't always know. You might also have quit school, dropped out of school, whether high school or college. College is definitely harder because there's less regulation and less structure. You're not technically forced to go to college, especially when you go and you have nobody in your corner. For me, when I went to college, I had no idea that I had ADHD, and I had parents that were just kind of loosey-goosey and didn't really put the hammer down on me, and I was able to go and then quit and then go and then quit. And I have dropped classes, I've had fails because I didn't drop in time because I thought I was going to go back, and just embarrassing things like that where I know I'm a good student, I know I can get an A, but I don't have A's because I didn't finish and I quit, and just things like that. So my last little ditty for you is that a lot of times when you have ADHD, because of your struggling in high school, which didn't get you to the best college, which made you less motivated, whatever it is, struggling in college, struggling to pick a career, a lot of times it leads you in a place where you have few career achievements to look back on. Not to say that you don't have any, but it's not like you have this great, like, 30-year span of a career in the medical industry to look back on. And again, not to say you don't, but a lot of us with ADHD find ourselves not really having anything to show for our careers in terms of achievements. And the last little weird, I know I just said that was the last one, but one that I always run across, a symptom of ADHD, which is just my little finishing off of this video, bink, is us ADHDers, or a lot of people that have ADHD, really like salt. That is so weird, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I've read it so many times, and when I was making this video, I was like, I'm just gonna throw that in there to see if anybody relates. I am a saltaholic, and I put way too much salt on all of my food. Like, I always need salt. When people say don't salt the food until you try it, like, I'm just like, but it's not an offense to your cooking. It's just, I have to have salt, like, always. Like, I won't even need to try anything and I just know I'll need to salt it. There are exceptions to the rules, and I have accidentally salted my food way too much at times, but for the most part, I like more salt than the average Joe. Let's just put it that way. So, that is my long video. And if you relate to a lot of this, there is a good chance that you, my dear friend, could potentially have ADHD. Again, not a doctor. So with that said, definitely see about maybe trying to get diagnosed. In the times that we're in, I don't know when things will get back to normal, but if you relate to a lot of this, look into what you can do to better your ADHD symptoms, whether or not you've been diagnosed. Obviously, take my advice or leave it, but I don't take medication, so I go through life without medication, and I do the best I can to cope and manage my ADHD with eating healthy, exercising, and looking into techniques to manage my time better and to structure my life better for myself. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you related to any of what I've talked about, let me know again in the comment section below. You know I love hearing from you. And please remember to subscribe to my channel. Click that gray bell to be notified the moment I upload another video every Wednesday and on the weekends on all things ADHD, mental well-being, and personal development. And you must know by now, my dear friends, that you are all in my prayers. I really, really hope you have a good rest of your week. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.